You are listening to the Cattle Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your undercaffeinated and overworked host, and with me, as always, is my partner.
I guess I'm the confused one. I don't know, Jim. I don't know. What day is it? What year is it? Where are we?
It doesn't matter. All that matters is you just keep working, Rocco. That's what it's all about. Keep working and earning the almighty buck. What else are we on this planet for? Which is actually a great intro for today's topic, so that'll work. But before we get there, you know you must suffer through the engineering joke of the week. All right, you ready for this, Rocco?
I'm ready.
All right. What is the best present to give for an electrical engineer's birthday? What do you give him?
I don't know.
You give him shorts. Huh? Come on. I keep getting worse every week. It's awful. Okay. All right. So yeah, today I want to talk about the concept of remote work and how that ties into the design and build world. During COVID, we all had to adapt, and we moved a lot of our budget to building out the infrastructure and the technology that we needed to let our people work remotely. And I think now that we're, post-COVID, we're all faced with kind of a myriad of conflicting opinions and technical concerns and cost issues around continuing the remote work concept or deciding to force people back into the office and onto the job site full time. And now, look, I know there's a bunch of our listeners out there in the construction space who are thinking, this is not a problem for us. Construction people have to be on the construction site. And that's true. Really, it is to a certain extent. But I think there's a lot more there that you guys, even in the construction space, are going to want to consider. Look, in both the design and the construction spaces right now, there is a severe worker shortage. Not just with, construction laborers and skilled tradespeople, but with, designers and estimators and project managers and even engineers and architects. For decades now, people have been steering away from our industry, right? Because of, I think, the perceived volatility we have and the way that we tend to run through boom bust cycles as the economy bounces around. And I think, if you couple that with the American kind of institutionalized belief that's been, pushed over the last 50 years that everybody needs to get a college degree, and we're looking at losing almost 50% of our workforce in this industry over the next 10 years. Why? Because the folks who know and work in the design build world right now are mostly old folks like Rocco and I. Rocco's older. He's really old. Yeah, the truth is, look, most of us are getting close to retirement age, and there are not a lot of younger people ready to take our jobs behind us right now. And look, that is a social, political conversation in and of itself we're not going to get into. But I think it's also an important part, at least, of the discussion around remote work. Right? And we're going to get into that in just a minute. But Rock, before I do get into it, let me ask you this. How many of the clients that you talk to in our space are having trouble right now finding and keeping qualified employees?
Just about everyone.
There you go.
And it's all around. I had a conversation earlier today with a surveyor who's 78 years old and he's still working. Oof. And he's trying to retire, and he's trying to hand his clients over to other people, and there's just not nobody out there that wants to do the work. And, it's disappointing. He can't hire people and he's trying to give it up, but his phone keeps ringing because there's a need.
Oh, dude, if I get to 78 and I'm still recording this podcast, just shoot me, would you? All right. All right. So let's get into that then. So what's the connection between the worker shortage and remote work? Well, I think it comes down to this, right? Like it or not, the younger generation of workers are not willing to spend their entire lives traveling in cars to offices and sites and working long hours away from home and family. And look, I'm sure a lot of you are listening, that are listening to you're grumbling about that, and this younger generation doesn't want to work. But I got to tell you, folks, I don't agree with that. I think they are just smarter than we were, right? People under 40 have grown up in the digital age, and they grew up through some massive economic shifts, and they've seen the results of their parents, right? Old guys like me who worked 70 hours a week, and we commuted 2 or more hours each way to work every single day. And they saw what that got us. They saw the layoffs and the corporate greed and the price gouging that came during the big financial collapses of the last 20 years, right? And then they saw it again in COVID when everybody got laid off. And they realized that working that way benefits only the company. And it actually severely damages the individual's personal life, right? And doing it gives them absolutely no protections during an economic crisis. In other words, they saw their parents get screwed by the system, and they're not willing to repeat that mistake. And I think this is where the remote work concept comes in. I think that providing an environment where people can perform their jobs from their own home with no travel time, no travel expenses, and they're immediately available to their families the moment work is over or if emergencies arise. I think this is the single biggest work benefit that people want today. All right, now look, I get it that in our world, particularly the construction side, remote work isn't always possible. But I will say that even some kind of hybrid environment where folks can work from home, even if it's only 1 or 2 days a week, it's going to go a long way towards helping you get and maintain the staff you need. I'll even say this: if you have laborers, right? Yeah, and what I mean is, people who work with their hands, skilled tradespeople like plumbers and electricians and whatnot, working for you, even they can benefit from a hybrid work environment, right? There are always days where bad weather or site conditions or just scheduling gaps mean that they cannot be out on the job working hands-on. And those are ideal days to let them work from home and handle things like, training and certifications and reporting and filling out their timesheets and updating schedules and all of the other miscellaneous, office type work that those guys never seem to get on top of. But the key to all this is that you're going to need to build out and maintain remote worker functionality for your company on a permanent basis. Rocco, how important do you think it is to get these hands-on workers, right? The training and experience working with things like, document management and estimating and markup tools. And do you find that we do a lot of that for our construction clients?
Yeah, I think it's hugely important, right? I mean, look, could you still work with paper and pencil, or could you still work without electricity? Sure, you can, but I mean, come on, let's get real. When the technology's out there to be able to help people along and be more productive and get the work done better and faster, why not? I mean, so it is a big part of what we do, training field staff at all levels. And there's people out there that say, oh well, I got field staff, but they're all too old and they're not going to want to learn. And I don't think that's the case. I disagree. I think everybody wants to be productive and be use technology at some level, because it's really advanced, particularly in construction. It's really come a long way over even the past 5 years. So why not utilize the technology?
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think age is an excuse. Look, I make my living as a technology consultant in this industry, and I'm pushing at 60, folks. I ain't no spring chicken. And believe me, if I can do it, anybody can. Except maybe Rocco. All right, look. I know, that there have been a lot of large companies out there making the news because of their now, return to work policies. And there have been a bunch of articles and news reports and so on, the benefits of working in an office, right? And the mentoring it provides and the camaraderie and blah, blah, blah. And let me tell you, it's all crap. It's absolute crap. Look, killing off remote work benefits, it helps the company and no one else. And I'll actually say this, it benefits two very specific sections of a corporation, and it hurts the company as a whole. Who are the people who this benefits? Mid-level managers and the people responsible for dealing with the physical facility, lease and management stuff. Right? Without staff sitting in an office, both of those segments aren't required. Right? So all of this marketing, all of these articles, all of this stuff you're hearing, it's pushed by them to ensure their own continued existence. Look, forcing people into the office costs the company more money for leases and buildings prices and taxes and power and equipment. Right? But even more importantly, it's going to guarantee you two things. I promise you're going to have both of these things. One, you're going to have a nightmare of a time hiring and keeping staff in a time where there is already a shortage of the skilled labor that we need. Okay? And two, the people who you do manage to get to take that forced, in office all the time position or on site all the time position, they are going to be the worst employees available on the market. Anybody with any kind of reliable skill level is going to work for your competitor who's offering some type of remote work functionality. Because like I said earlier, it is the single biggest benefit and cost saving that a worker can get in modern society, right? So, all right, I tell you what, with that, I'm going to get down off my soapbox here for a minute to let our sponsors get a word in. And then when we get back, I want to talk about the practical applications, I guess, of remote work in the AEC space. All right, so stand by, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. Today's Cattle Call Podcast is being brought to you by BricsCAD, the latest and greatest CAD software out there on the market today. It's growing by leaps and bounds, and the beauty of it is that BricsCAD allows you to use all of your current drawing files, all of the CAD commands and macros and features and Lisp routines and customizations and configurations that you've already developed, right? Without any transition. Your people can be up and running in BricsCAD in a matter of hours, right? So to help you make that transition here at Zentex, one of the things that we've done is we have actually created a Make the Move to BricsCAD program to help you move from your Autodesk-based platform over into BricsCAD with minimal time and risk and investment. And Rocco is going to tell you all about it. Rocco?
I'm going to tell you all about it. Well, there's a great deal of information that's available right on our website. It's zentechconsultants.net. You can reach out to us at sales@zentechconsultants.net or give us a call, 866-824-4459. But yeah, that's the core idea behind it, Jim. If you're an AutoCAD user and you're looking to make the move to BricsCAD, we're here to help make an easier transition for you. So check us out. Let us know how we can help you.
Perfect answer. BricsCAD, the smartest CAD system on the market today. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking about remote work in the AEC environment today. And I promised that in this half of the show we'd focus on kind of the practicality, I guess, of making that type of work available. Now, I think the good thing here is that a lot of us, if not all of us, already have the basics set up, right? Post-COVID and we've got everything we need with all the modern software systems and so on that have fully embraced, the cloud concept of file access and sharing, right? So all our software is built in for this. It's a lot easier thing to do now than it was even just 5 years ago. So let me throw out a couple of basic concepts, I guess, here that are vital to the design build world in this regard, right? And if you're listening and some of these are ringing true for your company, you may want to take a good hard look at your internal processes and maybe consider revamping those a little bit. So, first of all, nobody should be working on local or on-premises servers anymore. They're just too expensive. They use too much power and they require way too much effort to get people access and logins, to spin them up, to patch them with security, to back them up. It's insane, right? The average cost of an on-prem server just to get it set up is $22,000. That's average. If you need a high-end one and you're doing a lot of work, way more, right? And on average, even those cheap ones, they cost almost $7,000 a month for you to operate. That's a lot of money, right? And that's just absolutely nuts to my mind when you can shift to an equivalent cloud-based structure with, it's probably about usually a $5,000 setup for a cloud-based hosting service and server, and it costs less than $1,000 a month in fees to maintain it. And all of that is constantly being updated and patched and backed up and secured for you by the cloud host. I mean, it's, cost-wise, it's a no-brainer. But even aside from that, I think the real benefit of going cloud is the full-time remote access it provides with simple login tools, right? So, everybody who needs to can just access all of the project data with a simple, username and password, right? And that can easily include your clients and your subcontractors and the engineer and everybody else, right? You want to put into that loop, right? When it's appropriate to do that. All right, so that's the first thing, right? And the next thing you need to do is you want to make sure that you are implementing some type of a project management process that is repeatable on each job. In other words, if everybody's just kind of doing whatever they want and putting things where they want on their jobs, each project manager doing it differently, you're in a bad way. Look, don't get me wrong when I talk about project management systems, right? Those don't need to be expensive enterprise level systems like, Procore or Autodesk Construction Cloud, right? They are both great tools, right? We work with those a lot. But I think that simpler systems, right, like Bluebeam Studio or Bluebeam Cloud and SharePoint Online, those setups can be just as effective in this space for a lot less money. And I think the key is making sure that you have built out a simple to use, repeatable workflow that your staff is following on every project, and that it's cloud-based, right? So that they can access it from the home, the field, the office, right? Remotely. Hence our topic today on remote work. So Rocco, what systems do we work with our clients the most on in terms of project management and workflow controls, right? And does that change depending on the size of the company or what industry they're in?
Yeah, we get into everything from SharePoint to OneDrive to Bluebeam Cloud, Bluebeam Studio, like you said, Procore, Autodesk Build, and it does depend upon the size of the company, right? What structure you have, and I think it's important to keep in mind, right? We all want to have, a big mansion, but can you start out with a big mansion, when you're in your early 20s? I mean, most of us can't, some of us can, but, so my point being is you have to right size it for your company, right? I mean, a small GC can't afford to have, an extensive, a complex system like Procore in place, for example. So you start out with SharePoint and Bluebeam. That's much more affordable, and you scale and you grow from there. So obvious statements, but I think sometimes a lot of people think too big, and and then get themselves into trouble. So you got to right size it for where you're at, what stage you're at, and your budget.
Fair enough. So my takeaway from that was that my first big mistake in life was not having rich parents, so I could start off with a mansion at 20. That's what I heard. So, yeah, next life, I'm definitely getting rich parents. That'll be number one on my list. So, look, guys, the next big thing that you're going to want to address, and this is not easy, it's your corporate culture. So look, there is a level of trust that goes along with the remote work concept that a lot of companies really struggle to adopt. With the traditional office or site environment, right? You have direct oversight of your workers, and you can see what they're doing at all times, right? You're right on that. They're working, they're earning their money. And you don't natively have that when people are working remotely. And that's an area that a lot of firms have been looking to address with, efficiency programs and performance monitoring software and built-in cameras and logins and other process. And let me say this, if your company is looking at those systems, please stop. Don't do this. Look, even if you offer remote work, this type of snooping and oversight will absolutely drive your workers out the door. Look, I fundamentally believe that most people out there want to do good work for fair pay. That's what I believe. But I know that everybody doesn't have kind of that same rose-colored view of things that I do. I get that. But at the end of the day, you don't have to trust anyone. All you have to do is track their productivity. I think there is a leftover, I call it the factory worker mentality in the American business psyche that we need to get away from. Back in the day when Henry Ford first set up, the first assembly line, right? And workers had to be at their stations performing repeatable tasks without stop in order for that system to work. And that was so hugely successful that we took to it as a nation, and we tried to implement, and we did implement it in just about all work environments, right? But the truth is that it's a horrible process, and it does not adapt well to the design build world, and it never has. And with remote work, it's impossible. The key is this: we need to stop thinking or believing that we are paying people for their time, right? So that we need to make sure that they're being productive with every second of that time. You're paying people in this industry for their knowledge and their skills. And the only concern that we should have is whether or not they're meeting deadlines and meeting budgets. End of story. Right? If my employee gets their work done on time and under budget, do I really care that they took a 2-hour break to take their kids to the orthodontist yesterday? Don't care. They got it done on time, under budget, right? We need to be concerned with results, not the time and the process in between and how they got there. Look, if you believe that your employees have to work for every single second that you're paying them, you're dooming yourself to lose employees, and you're going to be struggling to find replacements with that kind of an attitude. Okay, so Rocco, look, as a fully digital company from our founding, right, from the day we started, this concept of letting people work when and as they need to, without any real oversight, was a concern of yours. When we first started Zentech, has that kind of eased for you? And if it has, what changed your thoughts on it?
It has. I don't think that I'm 100% at ease a lot of times, but it comes down to like you're saying, to productivity. I mean, if the work is getting done and it's put out on time, you're meeting deadlines, you're coming in within budget or under budget. People surprise you, right? I mean, I'm with you, Jim. I think for the most part, people, they want to work. They just want to get a fair wage and be treated right. Are there going to be folks out there that you're always going to be worried about? For sure. That's given, right? I mean, that's just the way that it is. But you have to keep an eye on that. You have to keep an eye on again, your budgets and are you meeting your deadlines? And if you're not, something's got to be done about it. And it may mean letting some people go because of that. But for the most part, I've been pleasantly surprised at how productive people can be, and they're happy. That's a big thing too, right?
That's it. I mean, hey, knock wood, right? I don't want to jinx anything, but honest to God, here at Zentech, we've been crazy lucky in that our employees come on board with us. They love the structure. They love that we don't hover over them. They're good people who work really hard, go above and beyond for us constantly, and we have almost no turnover in this environment. And I'm thrilled about that, and I love the guys who are working for us. They're all fantastic. So, look, I'll say this, right? I think that one of the big problems that people run into in our industry with the remote work concept, it isn't with the technology or the software. I think it's in developing workflows that fit that remote process. Look, it's a very basic human thing to be able to keep, paper files in a cabinet or, walk down the hall and ask your boss a question or even, hey, let's just run into the conference room for a quick meeting, right? Those were things nobody had to think about learning how to do. You knew how to do that. It's native to us. But I think that handling all of those issues and processes online, it requires a bit more planning and outlining to build efficient processes that can make that happen. And look, I think everybody out there knows, that the software is there now. It's built to that with tools like Team and Zooms and so on, and all the cloud-based, project management systems that we talked about earlier. But I think that structuring step-by-step methods of doing all these things when you have workers distributed, all over the world, it can be a daunting task for a lot of people. Look, not only do you have to develop those workflows and roll them out, you also have to train your users on, how to follow that workflow. And then you need to show it to every new employee that you bring on moving forward. And I think that's why, here at Zentech, we have seen just an absolutely huge growth in our work in the design build community with firms that are looking to not so much get involved in the software and so on, but really to optimize their internal workflows and develop kind of automated point and click dashboard systems as their primary work interface, right? Rather than trying to teach people how to use the software and extensive document management, written instructions and so on. And that type of work has actually been outstripping everything else we do by a substantial amount over the last couple of years here. And I tell you what, we have been doing so much work in this dashboarding and workflow space that I'm going to break protocol here on the cattle call, and I'm going to give Rocco a chance to close us out and tell you guys a little bit about those areas that we've been working in. So, okay, here you go, Rocco. I will finally give you a bit of a sales pitch time on today's show to wrap us up here. What can we do for our clients in these areas, and where can they get more details about it?
Oh boy. Well, I don't want to go into a big sales spiel here, but what I will say is that I think getting to the point of productivity, right? We work with our customers to look at where they're at with the technology that they have at their fingertips today, right? It's not about, okay, let's drop what we've already invested in and move on to something else and get another sales pitch. It's really taking a look at what you can do and the technology that we invest in, right? Especially now that we're on annual structures, you're paying for that, for those improvements from year to year. So, I think it's important to look at how are you using the tools, what limitations do you see in the tools, and make sure that you can, that there are better ways to utilize the tools. It's amazing sometimes that when we're on calls, Jim, and you show people, as an example in Bluebeam, what they can do, and they're like, holy crap, I didn't even know I could do that, and that comes up very often, so it's like, don't make your first turn to switch to another product. Look at what you've got under your fingertips, and if there are products that we sell and support and develop for, then reach out to us. We'd be glad to have the conversations. And how do you do that? ZentechConsultants.net.
There you go. That was a pretty good pitch. You know what? I may put you in charge of all sales efforts for this company. Good job, Rocco. All right, folks. We'll stop hassling you and we'll get out of here. We'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us, 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from y'all.